Good evening, one and all. My name is Misiewicz, and good evening to a sunny, blissful day. I'm hoping that you've enjoyed your summer's weekend. Yes, I keep doing this where I never turn off the speakers whenever I'm talking, so I do apologize. But I hope that you've had a wonderful, what can I only describe as a miraculous summer, blissful bank holiday weekend. Yes, it's the bank holiday Monday, and yes, it's sunny. I'm not playing tricks on you. This is Monday, bank holiday Monday, and it's not raining. Wowee, that's the greatest start to the week we could ever ask for, apart from roasting so much that we're now cooking our eggs on our rooftops. So if you're like me and you're trying to keep cool, you're probably noticing that I'm wearing a only you can describe it as a polo shirt. As I talk, my Mac is melting in front of my very fingertips. So I'm not sure how long I'm going to stay online because it's now beginning to go whirring around, as you might be able to hear on my microphone. So I might have to start shouting if it sounds like a helicopter in the next 10 minutes. What I thought I would do, this is the first time that I've done this session, I'm going to do something miraculously different. And that difference is, yes, I'm talking about property tax and reducing buy-to-let property tax, but I'm going to be focusing my efforts very much on a specific type of tax that might be relevant to you. And then I'll change the title tags and stuff like that to make these videos, when you look back at them, a bit more relevant. But we'll still be doing the normal routines. What I mean by that, we'll still do in the news. So in the news, I'll be talking about what the tabloids are writing about this specific element of tax, which I'll talk to you about later on. And we'll talk about the client FAQ about this specific element of tax in terms of what our clients have been asking for and how we've supported them. And then finally, we'll be taking your Q&A on this tax as well. There'll be a couple of announcements. I'm very excited about a couple of announcements. I'm going to be giving another Q&A live. I've been sending out a poll. Be interesting to see how that comes back in terms of my being able to show you that poll. That'll be a disaster waiting to happen, I'm sure, if I screw that up. But ultimately, I want to give you some free advice, free tips, in addition to what we're doing tonight. So this will be a second live session, which I'm just going to go into my YouTube account. And then once I've got that up later on, I will share that with you. In the meantime, let's start the session by going back to in the news. I think let's talk about stamp duty land tax. This is where it all starts. And I thought, rather than talking about what's in the news in terms of buy-to-let tax as a whole, I thought I should focus my efforts very much on the specific type of tax that will be more relevant and we can get more detail than ever before. As a result of that, it'll be more useful for you. I can really get excited about the ways to provide you guys with solutions. Ultimately, it will be a lot more interesting. So it is about stamp duty land tax, or SDLT to you and me. And what I'm going to talk about is what's in the news. And while I do that, I am just going to get for whatever reason, my screen is just frozen. It's this heat. Literally, my Mac has just decided to give up the ghost. I think it's said it's summertime, I'm on holiday, and no thank you, Mr. Misiewicz. So that's really unfortunate that I'm now having a battle with my own laptop. But we'll try and get through it anyway, and we'll soon see how that goes out. So what I'm going to do is share my screen with you, and we'll talk about what's in the news and what people are talking about. So let's go over to my screen. And we're going to start with the Express. So the Express have written a couple of articles about stamp duty land tax, SDLT. The first one is, if you didn't know, we have a new exchequer being Sajid Javid Deniz. I'm not sure kind of why they've capitalized that, or sorry, denies. So Sajid Javid denies plans for shift to sellers, but says bold measures are needed. Now, a week ago, I looked at some press articles that talked about stamp duty land tax, and Boris Johnson said, well, we may do something quite radical. And then Sajid Javid also said, well, yes, we could pass it on to the seller. So-called the Times that published this article, but that wasn't the case at all. And in fact, on Twitter, Mr. Javid penned more speculation about stamp duty this morning. To be clear, I never said at the time, so funny enough, he was pointing fingers here, a bit like Donald Trump might do. I never said I was planning to put it to the sellers, so stick it there. So the Times clearly got it controversially wrong, and Mr. Javid took no umbrage about naming and shaming the Times for this indiscretion. So it does look like the stamp duty land tax, yes, is going to be radicalized, but it does not look like it's going to be passed on to the seller. And thank goodness. I think the fact that the sellers now already got this CGT changes coming along, which I said in a previous video, so I'm not going to go into too much detail about that. But inevitably, if you now push on SDLT for the seller, no one would sell their homes, and it would just kill off, for my money, anything to do with the markets that we expect to see. So it wouldn't be a good move at all. And that was followed up, funnily enough, by the Express again, saying, can stamp duty be delayed? The answer, I didn't freeze purposely, by the way. That's not a freeze video, but inevitably my answer is going to be, when have HMRC ever said, yeah, just pay me anytime? They are trying to shorten the period of time which you need to pay. And interesting enough, if you think it's 30 days in terms of paying stamp duty land tax, well, you'll be forgiven for that. But it is actually just 14 days. So an SDLT needs to be sent to HMRC's company's house. Sorry, company's house. That's for limited companies, Simon. Of course it is. I'm talking about HMRC here. So HMRC, that is the one receiving the SDLT payments whenever you buy a house. And that's got to be done with 14 days. And if you don't pay that money over to HMRC, you would be fined, and you would get interest as well, charges on top of the SDLT itself. So really, it's 14 days, no chance of delaying it. HMRC are not going to be that generous with you. So that's rather unfortunate, but unfortunately true. Okay, so let's have a look at the next story, which is interesting enough. It's come from, yes, The Sun. Interesting. Now, I use The Sun for my dream team, got to be honest, but not typically for my professional article listings, I have to say. However, it was interesting what the Sun had to say in terms of, you had to fix the housing market. It's dying out its backside. I'm sure if it was The Sun, they might write a bit more colorfully. But ultimately what they're saying is scrap duty homes on up to £500,000. So pretty much Boris Johnson has talked about this, whereby homes under £500,000, there would not be any stamp duty land tax at all. Now, if that does go ahead, that would certainly move the whole property sector again. Whether that would be the case, that it would be for all people buying a property, then I'm not sure, because it does say family buying an average price. Now, obviously, that's just an example, but could they say, well, only if it's your own home? So, albeit I do believe that they are going to revolutionize the SDLT legislation, I don't think it's going to be so great for buy-to-let investors. So please don't get too excited just yet, even though that this news is coming around. Here's an interesting one for you. So any mortgage brokers listening to this, or any advisors, solicitors, mortgage brokers, that kind of thing, broker was ordered to pay redress over £30,000 stamp duty error. Now, let's get back to really where stamp duty and land tax calculation comes from. It comes from solicitors, typically conveyancing solicitors. And yet, if someone just kind of said, well, I think stamp duty 3% doesn't exist, or well, I think it's this amount of money that you're going to pay. Well, as soon as, if you're a member of professional society like the FCA for mortgage advisory, insurance, and yet you give advice on stamp duty land tax, it is now going to be the Financial Ombudsman services ordered advance mortgage funding to compensate a couple that gave incorrect advice on stamp duty, to which landed them an extra £30,000 tax charge. £30,000. Now, they're mortgage brokers, and they was probably not, I'm not saying flippant or careless, but it must have been just a gesture conversation to say, oh, I think it's this. And they may have well said, go and speak to your solicitor, but they basically took that advice from the mortgage broker, mortgage advisor, and took it as read. And it's very much a very American thing. If you give me advice and you are a professional body, then I will sue you. And that really is a starter for 10 in terms of this coming about. So if you're a mortgage broker, please be careful when you're talking about, even in gesture, that stamp duty and land tax is a certain figure, because you could be held responsible for in any errors that is made on your behalf. So interesting article. I mean, first time I've seen this. I mean, it'd be interesting. Guys out there listening to me right now, have you seen anything like this before, whereby a mortgage broker being sued for tax advice? Right? It's the first time I've seen it, but I'd be interested to see what you have to say on that matter. Or indeed, have you now, and I don't want to be doing this whole no win, no fee basis, but have you been advised in the past by a solicitor, by an accountant, by a mortgage broker that's ended up costing you more money? And if so, tell us where does it cost you more money? And maybe you should be going back to them to say, well, actually, I think you now have got this degree of responsibility, and there's negligence part of that claim. By the way, I'm not saying you should do this. I don't want to be jumping on the bandwagon, but you know, maybe that's the root cause of where we're going in society now. Another article talk about SDLT. So it's SDLT day, stamp duty land tax day. Whenever you're buying a buy-to-let property investment, SDLT is the cut tax you pay. So this is the first one of my sessions talk about a specific tax element. I'm hoping that you're going to enjoy this. If you are enjoying the fact that I am now breaking off into some niche pieces of tax advice and looking at the news, what's been talked about, then give me a thumbs up and let me know if you like this, or if you prefer the buy-to-let tax genre in terms of looking all news. I'll be interested. Please put your comments down below this video and tell me which one you prefer, specific tax or general tax advice. So let's start that again, shall we? So there's the niche or specific tax advice versus the generic tax advice. Type in the word, individual word, and that gives me a bit of an idea of which one you prefer as we go through. But give me a thumbs up if you're really enjoying this so far. And don't forget, as we're going through tonight's session, that if you have got questions, I will be answering those at the end. So make sure that you type in your questions in the comments box below, and I will pick those questions up later on. So Boris Johnson is here to stay, and there's very positive news in terms of him being a PM. One of them is this shake-up of stamp duty and land tax. And again, another article is pretty much emphasizing, well, how about we get rid of the 3%? Not only should we get rid of the 3%, but have you noticed anything over 1.5 million, let's reduce it from 12% down to 7%. So maybe Boris is looking for a new home. Who knows? But I think that would be an interesting one for 1.5 million. But clearly, if you're a buy-to-let property investor, you're not going to be buying a property for 1.5 million, are you? You're more likely to be buying a property below that £500,000 mark anyway, which, if we do go ahead with this whole new change, could that be reduced? Let's pray and hope so. Oh, by the way, the 3% SDLT surcharge, though, that's here to stay. I think Boris Johnson has been quoted to say that is not on the agenda to be reviewed. Okay, so, and interesting enough, I did say about the sun. Here we go again. Here's the sun, and stamp duty first time buyer paid stamp duty 3 times. How on earth can someone pay stamp duty 3 times? Surely, if you're buying a property, you buy that property, and at that point in time, you pay stamp duty land tax. Is this an error on the conveyancing solicitor? No. Thank goodness it's not. It's a situation when you go into one of these shared, I don't want to call it shared, that's wrong. When you go into what they call, I've just lost the phraseology. Oh, there we go. The shared ownership scheme. So this is where you buy 25% of the property, 50%, 75%, and you might do what they call staircasing, where you increase the percentage of which you own the property. Unfortunately for this person, it meant that every time she increased the percentage of ownership of that property, it triggered an SDLT charge. So she's paying it over and over and over again. And what was really, really fascinating in this whole thing, it meant that she paid around £5,200 worth of stamp duty land tax in total, compared to 3,370 if you paid it off from the start. So this whole shared ownership now is kicking off a different stamp duty charge, because it's whenever you're increasing the mortgage of your property, that is the trigger point. Now, if she bought the property and she increased the value, well, there's a transaction taking place, but it's not until it's the debt position that she's increasing, which then factors in the debt. So if she did it without the debt, is there a charge? Maybe not. And that's something that's going to be interesting. But if she's doing it by increasing a mortgage, there could well be an extra SDLT surcharge. Forgive me on that. I don't want to use the word surcharge because people might mix it up with 3% SDLT surcharge. I just mean an extra amount of stamp duty and land tax that you need to pay. And that really staggered me, because it's the first time I've seen this whereby someone has gone into this whole shared ownership scheme, bought 25%, decided to increase it to 50%, 75%, and so on, and then constantly getting hit by HMRC. And you kind of think, well, isn't the point of this shared scheme to get people onto the ladder and to increase value, and yet they're being penalized for it? It's an interesting one, and it's one that I think does need a review as part of Boris Johnson's imminent review of SDLT. Here's another one. So stamp duty, when do you have to pay stamp duty? This is obviously the 14-day ruling. So I think I probably just repeated that. Might have already seen that already. So forgive me. But yeah, that's just the 14 days. So I can ignore that and I'll move that down because it's annoying me. And let's go over to the next one. Oh, okay. So I'll talk about multiple dwellings relief later on. If you want to know more, and this is just a snippet, and I'm just wary of time. It's already 7:20. But I wanted to kind of cover off now in terms of the client FAQ and how we've been answering our clients before I move over to you guys. So I just need to do my share, just do a new share now. I'm just going to go to my Word document, which hopefully will go through. You'll notice that, again, I will be putting all of the materials from in the news in the comments box after the video has been published by YouTube, just to give you a bit more impetus. So you'll see that I've put sources of material so you can read these articles at length, should you wish to, by clicking on the links in the description boxes. So a couple of things I want to bring to your attention. Hopefully I'm going to squeeze this box. So yes, hopefully you'll notice now that SDLT doesn't need to pay within 14 days. So if you're buying a property, it's no longer 30 days. It's now 14 days that you have to pay the money over to HMRC via your conveyancing solicitor. A couple of other things on SDLT. You know the typical rates on your screen. I'm not going to go through that verbatim. You kind of know that yourself. Here's a link that you want to go to if you want to, and that'll be in the description box as well. but we do need to think about the 3% SDLT on second purchases, and I need to just probably finish that off with if the property value is £40,000 or more. So these rates there, that would be, instead of 12%, that would be 15%, and so on. So that's the SDLT rates, but please do note the non-residential rates. And I've just done a couple of videos, funny enough. One's going to be launched on this Thursday, which talks about the stamp duty, land tax, non-residential rates, and converting commercial properties into residential. So do watch out for that video. I've done one video already, and I'll put a link to that on my screen about commercial properties versus residential property investments. And there's an interesting conversation between Samuel and Ranjan, and they had a nice healthy debate about which one was the best. So do watch that video. It's brilliant. I have to say, very entertaining, as Samuel normally is, to be fair. So do watch that. The stamp duty for non-residential rates is a bit cheaper, so you don't pay anything of 125,000. That is 0% up to £150,000, so that's all good. You only then pay 2% on the next 100,000, so from 150,000 to 250,000, and then you pay 5% on anything above £250,000. So it's significantly less than buying property with residential rates, and that's why you're seeing a lot more people doing these conversions from commercial to residential. A couple of other things that I want to pick up with you as well. If you're buying properties, multiple dwellings relief. So if you're buying 2, 3, 4, 5 properties, then you can use what we call looking at the average of your stamp duty liability. So you take the total price, let's say, of £1 million. So you buy 5 properties at £1 million in total. The average is now £200,000, and therefore you would base the £200,000 as though it's the average of the transactions. £200,000 is 1,500. This is just the normal standard flat rate, ignoring the 3% for now. And you then basically take that 1,500 and you multiply it by 5. That gives you then 7,500. So you're not doing it on the each individual property. You are doing the average value of those 5 properties and then basing your SDLT. You times it by 5 and then you get your SDLT charge. There is a minimum on this of 1%. So this regard, it would be £10,000. Most times out of 10, multiple dwellings relief does give you a discount. So if you are buying multiple properties from one particular tenant, from one seller, then you can get MDR. And indeed, if you've got one person that you bought property, and then following 6 months, you bought another property from that same person, again, you can get MDR relief as well. So you just need to do a calculation on that. Funny enough, the other thing I was talking about is whether you should buy properties. And what I've done for you is I try to help you understand how much stamp duty you would pay on a property for £250,000. And what I've done is said, if you buy a house, so residential house, for £250,000, you would pay £10,000 SDLT, and that includes the 3% SDLT surcharge as well. So £10,000, quite a lot of money, I'm sure you agree. However, if you did a commercial to residential on a property for £250,000, you'd only pay £2,000 SDLT. So significantly less, so £8,000 worth of saving. And again, don't forget, I did do a video on this already. There's another one coming out on Thursday, so be on the watch out for that. Interesting enough, though, if you bought a property unencumbered that's in a company, and instead of buying the property from the company, you bought the company, then you would pay not SDLT, because you're not buying the property anymore, you're buying the company. You're only paying 0.5% charge, which basically means you're paying £1,250 because you bought the company. Equally, the stamp duty is based on net assets. If you've got a property with £250,000 value, but you've got a £150,000 mortgage, you've in effect got only £100,000 equity. And the stamp duty of buying shares is based on the equity value. So it would be only £500. So do be careful, or maybe think more intelligently about how you procure your next buy-to-let property investments. Should you buy residential straight and pay £10,000? Should you buy a commercial building and convert it and put it to more residential later on? Or should you buy from a company? And that's something that you can do on your own merits. Just a couple of things I want to bring to your attention, and I've got 5 minutes, so I'm just going to do this one, and then we'll leave it there for tonight. But 3% SDLT surcharge on second homes. So this is if you've got a second home. So if you've got a house and you buy any other property, then you will have to pay this 3% SDLT surcharge. If you have a home and you replace your home over a period of time, so you have your home, you sell your home as part of the transaction of buying one, then the 3% SDLT does not apply. However, if you have a home and you don't sell it straight away, but you get another home, you would pay 3% SDLT surcharge, but you would be able to claim it back once you sold that first property, your first home, within 3 years. So you can get your SDLT surcharge back, but you do need to bear in mind that you have to kind of wait. Equally, there is a snippet here that 3% on a home. So if you're buying let's imagine that you inherited a property. So you've got no other properties, you're 18, 19, you've inherited a property as part of the estate. You don't really want to live there, so you buy a home. Now, provided you buy your home within 3 years of being inheriting this property, again, you will not have to pay the 3% SDLT surcharge. So a cracking little effort for you to consider. If you've inherited a property, don't worry, it's not all doom and gloom, but you do need to get a motor on if you want to buy your own property. And typically that would be within 3 years. And the last thing, interesting enough, will be, I'm just going to move this out because it's wrong formatting. 3% SDLT may be reduced by chattels. So chattels, imagine with me now, you bought a property for someone and they've left all the furniture behind. The property you've agreed is £150,000, but you agree that the content within it is worth £10,000. SDLT would be based on the bricks and mortar only, which means it's just based on the 140,000, not the £10,000 chattels, which it could save you quite a pretty penny when you think about it. So again, just think about ways of how you might be able to reduce your SDLT. And I will put links to all of these things as I'm talking through. If you want to play this back at any point in time, I will give you links to the videos we've done previously all about this subject matter. And yeah, that's basically just a bit more description there. So I'll leave it there, but hopefully you found this useful. If you found this session on SDLT, stamp duty and land tax useful, then please give me a thumbs up. So it just tells everyone else when they're watching this video if it's any good. If you've got any questions, make sure you drop your comments box, comment your questions in the comments box below, and I'll make sure that I answer those within 36 hours. I will try and get those done tonight. If it's live, by the way, if you're asking those questions live, then I will get those done, as I say. So what I'm going to do is go to my new share, and I'm going to go back into my Google space now. And hopefully what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of that. If you want to read about SDLT SDLT and reducing SDLT, by the way, don't forget that in Optimise Accountants website, we've also got this video. We've also embedded a video podcast on there. And there's a stack of questions that you might be asking about SDLT surcharge. By the way, this is a 5,000 word beast, but you can click on any one of these aspects of SDLT and click on it, and it will take you to the section that you wish to read about. So do feel free to look at our website, pick up SDLT, reduce SDLT when buying a property investment, and you'll get all the answers that you should ever wish to get. So let's have a look now if there's any questions. So so someone said, buy-to-let tax, please. Buy-to-let tax, please. How can you reclaim? So, okay, that's interesting. So people, are you all asking for more generic tax? Oh, that's interesting. So rather than specific tax. Okay, then you've asked, I shall deliver. So we'll go back to the standard way of me doing the buy-to-let rather than doing property specific. So I messed up. I can only apologize. So let me just stop my video, stop my share, in fact. Stop share. There we go. I'm back online now. Cool. So hello. I do have a question. So how can you reclaim the 5% purchase VAT on a HMO conversions if you buy materials direct and not charge 20%? Unfortunately, you cannot. If you have bought materials yourself and you're looking to do a conversion from for VAT purposes, reduce it from 20% to 5%, your tradesperson must buy and fit those materials in. So it's not something that you can just claim through. You would have to get them through. So unfortunately, sorry guys, you can't do that. But thanks for your votes in terms of saying what you prefer in terms of specific tax advice versus general tax stuff. I will make sure I do general tax. What a crap idea. I don't know who thought of it. Terrible, terrible, terrible. So I shan't make that mistake again. So any questions that you guys have got, please feel free to type those in. In the meantime, I'm going to share with you. Please give me a thumbs up if it's been useful. I appreciate I talked about stamp duty rather than buy-to-let. I'm sorry. I will correct my error next time around and make it even more better. So let me just share with you something that I think might be useful for you. I'm just going to go into my PowerPoint now. So we've done in the news, done the client FAQ, and we've done YouTube FAQ. There's not much FAQ there. I am on the bottom of this video. I am going to give you access to our Teachable. This is our new product line, which is going to be partly free. So we're just testing all this out. I've done a course, buy-to-let course, and this is a buy-to-let property investment course, by the way, not just a buy-to-let tax. What I'm going to do is just give you the details of this so you can actually see the curriculum. And I'm going to drop the link for this course below this video. So if you want to have a free access to this course, you can do so. I will give you some aspects of this for free. Be great to get your feedback on that as well. I'm just going to find if I can do a share. So let me do a share, stop share and new share. And we're going to go straight into my Google. So this is probably going to be worth you doing if you want some help around buy-to-let investments. Hopefully you can see it there. And I'm just going to go to course curriculum now. And this has already been built. So you can see this. So what are your life and property goals? So this is almost when you're starting your buy-to-let property portfolio. Should you invest in property? We've got another one is why do you, or what, sorry, that should say, what do you want from property, income or capital growth? I'll change that. Which property strategies can you invest into? And I took about a 30-minute video about the different types of property investments you can carry through and which property investment strategy will you now choose? And I've got a good kind of set of documents that you can then download and then go through that in terms of finding out which property investments. I'm also going to build another course all around buy-to-let property tax, and that will be then also shared with you guys as well. So that's now available. I will put that in my description field. I haven't done a promo video for it yet because it's just the content's just not there enough for me yet. I'm building it as we go along, but rather than wait, I want to give you that access now, and I'll be in part of the description field down below. And what else have we got before I go? I just lost my page here. How annoying. All right, here we go. So that's that one. Property tax is next Monday night, don't forget. But here is the surprise. So you've asked for it, so I'm going to give it to you guys. So this is the property investment Q&A. So Monday evenings, I typically will do the property tax Q&A, but I'm also now going to do the Wednesday evening sessions from 7 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. and it's about property investment strategies. So here I will be picking up a particular theme. Yes, there'll be an element of tax in there, but it's going to be mainly focusing on the investment strategy and how you can make more money from that. So I'm going to be doing a bit of that, and most of that material I will be taking snippets out of that and then adding that to the course as well. So I'm going to be doing that. I'm going to be announcing that. That starts on the 4th of September. So if you want to join me as well on Monday evenings to talk about property tax, do that. If you want to join me for property investment questions, which is not tax related, but investments, then join me for that. And if you ask me questions about tax, I will shun you. No, clearly I won't. That's really rude. Not do that. Bad Dobby. What I will ask you to do, though, is pose those kind of questions on a Monday evening. Wednesday will be focused on property investing, and that's how you build your wealth. And then Monday is how you keep your wealth. So that's the way I'm going to try and strap this together, and hopefully that will be useful. So that's pretty much me done for this evening. Hopefully you found that useful. If you are delighted with the fact that I'm now doing this property investment course as well on a Wednesday evening, then please give this video a like, because we now need to communicate the fact that we have got this extra additional Q&A live session with me on Wednesday on top of the Monday night sessions. So make sure you do that. And oh, got one question. So good SDLT deep dive. So thank you very much for that. And that's what I was surprised about. So I might just do a few more deep dives. Forgive me, but I might just do the deep dives a bit more, just so we can talk about that in a bit more detail. And then I'll go to the buy-to-let tax as well. So I think that there's bits I want to kick off. There's not that many, so I will do a bit of both. Question says, hi Simon, is SA commercial property better to start with an LLP? Really, I'm not sure. And that whole debate about LLPs, should I use limited companies? I've done several videos on that, so it might be worth you just sitting down, watching those for about half an hour. And it talks about, should I use a company? Should I use a different type of tax structure? I'm on now. I don't know is the answer to your question, because I don't know your tax position. So it's really challenging to get that question across. So I do apologize for that. How to include more partners on LLP, on already established LLP property. Can you please do a video on LLPs? I hate LLPs, I've got to be honest. I'm much more happy with limited company structures and have introductions for shares and share buybacks and stuff like that. LLPs has the most complex structure in terms of shares. It's got the same kind of share structure complexity, but it doesn't have the tax benefits of a limited company, because the profits from LLPs are taxed in your personal names. So I'm not a big fan. So as much as I'd like to do an LLP video, I hate them. So I probably won't. I much prefer limited companies. And it's a bit like Marmite, Max. You know, you either love them or hate them. And that's one of mine. So Nahid, I do apologize, matey, but I probably won't be doing that anytime soon. I'd feel really bad saying that, but it's a passion of mine to do limited company structures. Anyway, thank you ever so much for watching. Don't forget, I am going to be here next Monday night. I have got a video on this Thursday coming up, which talks about commercial to residential conversions and SDLT and VAT savings. So if you're thinking about doing that kind of strategy, then feel free to watch that video on Thursday evening. And don't forget that Monday, I'm going to be here again, talk about buy-to-let tax. But then the following Wednesday, I'll be talking about property investments as well. And that'll be an exciting new chapter in my life on YouTube. So thank you ever so much for joining me tonight, and I shall see you all again very soon. In the meantime, enjoy the summer.